Hey everyone, what's up? It's me, Pagey here once again with another video, and this is going to be the start of my American Horror Story cult review series, I guess you could say. Now, I did review American Horror Story Hotel on this channel 2 years ago, not to the day because these American Horror Story premiere dates change, but yeah, we did Hotel 2 years ago. Missed Roanoke. I'm not that annoyed that I missed it because I think Roanoke just fell off a bit in the second half. I did enjoy the season, but just in the second half it just fell off a bit, but I still enjoyed this season as a whole. But moving into American Horror Story cult, it's probably been the most excited I've been for an American Horror Story season just because of the setting of the season. Like, it's really set in the real world. All of these are, but this feels like the most real of the American Horror Story season. So that's why I've been looking forward to it so much. One of the things a lot of people noticed going into this season was the opening credits. So there's only 5 names on the opening credits from what I remember. I think there's 5 names of the actors. I think that's going to extend and there might be more names added as the episodes go along. That's just what I'm thinking. We'll have to wait and see in episode 2 if that happens. But yeah, so maybe they didn't want to put actors' names in that opening title that weren't actually in the episode. But as I said, we might have to wait and see until episode 2 to actually find out if that's the case. So obviously going into this season, there were a lot of, not necessarily confusion, but there were rumours about what is this season and where it revolves around, because it had started that it's revolved completely around the US presidential election from last year, then it changed to it being not about it, and then it changed to it being that it started on election night, which is what we got in episode 1. It starts on election night, and it was pretty cool how they actually used the proper footage from like all the different news coverage of the presidential election and, you know, famous like news things that they did with Donald Trump, like all the famous quotes, if you want to call them famous quotes, that he had on his presidential campaign. Now, one thing to obviously point out, I'm not from America, I'm from Australia. Now, obviously I heard all the main things from the campaign and the aftermath of the election when they showed it on TV here and stuff I saw on social media. But I'm not in America. I didn't experience it firsthand. I don't know what the aftermath of the election and how, like, all the stuff during the election, I don't know how that actually felt. So I can't really give my full-on opinion and say, oh, I experienced it firsthand, because I didn't. But from what I can grasp from this first episode, it does look like they are getting a good grip on how people felt for the most part, and, you know, some of the, you know, differences and I guess the conflicts that Donald Trump supporters had with Donald Trump supporters, which we did see throughout this episode. But as I said, I'm not from America, so I don't know if that's 100% correct on what they're doing. And obviously it's a bit over dramatized because it's a TV show, but it looks like they're getting a good grip on it for the most part. Now, it is good to see, even though they are tackling like a pretty political thing in this season, they still have the comedy, and I absolutely lost it. I started laughing out so loud when Kai, who's played by Evan Peters, like put all the Cheetos or like the cheese puffs in the blender, just blended them up and put them all over his face to make himself look like Donald Trump. I just thought that was hilarious. I wasn't expecting it. I was like, why is he grinding up these cheese puffs? Is he like making a cheese puff smoothie? And then I saw what he'd done and I just completely lost it. I thought it was hilarious. One of the things I was looking forward to going into this episode, ever since I heard the rumor and the casting of this actor, or recasting into the American Horror Story series, was the news that Twisty would be back. And I was like, okay, well, we know what happened in Freak Show. Twisty was a very, very popular character. I think a lot of people were annoyed, if not everyone that watched Freak Show, they were annoyed at how much of a shorter amount of time he was in Freak Show, but the time that he was on Freak Show was just awesome, and I think he's actually got one of the better character arcs for an American Horror Story character, even though his role was very small. But when they announced that he was coming back, I was like, okay, well, we know what happened in season 4 in Freak Show, so how are they going to bring him back? And I thought it was actually really cool how they've done it. So he's a comic book character. Like, there's a comic book series, a horror comic book series inspired by Twisty, and the scene that we see, like, reenacted from the comic book is basically a recreation of the season 4 or Freak Show scene that we're introduced to Twisty, when we have the young couple in that field and Twisty just comes out from like behind the bushes and stuff and murders the guy. Very, very similar. Obviously in this case he actually, you know, murders the girl. He didn't murder the girl in Freak Show, but yeah, that was insane. Cut out her tongue as well, which I thought was just mental, but Seeing Twisty back was pretty cool. I'm very interested to see if he's in it again in other episodes. Like they might recreate more moments from that comic book. Or John Carroll Lynch, who plays Twisty, might play another character in this season. But I don't know. It was cool to see Twisty back even though it was short. But yeah, it was cool nonetheless. But this Twisty comic book basically triggers Ali's coulrophobia, I think that's how you pronounce it. I think the fear of clowns. And Ali is played by Sarah Paulson. And it was this along with the election night. Like election night in general has sort of triggered back her fears. And we do learn through her like therapy session, if you want to call it that, that 9/11 had the same effects on her. Now there is an episode, I think it's episode 5 or 4, something around there, where the episode is actually called 9/11. So I don't know if we're going to get like a flashback of sorts to Ali in that period and how she felt during 9/11 and the different experiences she had back then, or maybe it's just an episode titled and they reference back to 9/11 a lot, maybe with some other characters as well, because this was a common thing in the news. A lot of people said that they did feel the same way about Donald Trump's election and the fears they had. It was like it was the same, or they compared to the fears they had when 9/11 happened and what was going to happen after that, because there was a lot of uncertainty when that event happened. So a lot of people felt the same with the Donald Trump election. But I think the two best scenes in the episode would have to be, the first one was the supermarket scene. It was very tense. It leads you to be a bit confused, like, okay, is Ali actually like imagining this? Or are they actually clowns chasing her? Were there clowns having sex in the produce aisle? Thought that was a funny quote. How there was no clowns having sex in the produce department. I thought that was pretty funny. And yeah, it led you to think, okay, is Ali actually like imagining this? And we get certain scenes later in the episode which make you think, okay, well, no, she's not imagining them. Even though I didn't think at that moment she was imagining them, there is some massive cover-up. Obviously, the guy, the supermarket attendee who's played by Chaz Bono, I think that's his name, who was in Roanoke. He was like one of the incest brothers, if you want to call them that, like the pig people. Yeah, so he's the supermarket guy and he was a Donald Trump supporter, which I thought was a bit of a awkward exchange. I can imagine that being a thing that happened in real life a lot. And it happens in different walks of life as well, not just politics, but like people saying, oh, Donald Trump's an idiot, and they're like, okay, well, I voted for Donald Trump. So I reckon that would have been something that actually happened in real life. So I guess that was a cool thing that they put into that scene. But yeah, that whole supermarket scene in general was tense. And then we had the Kai and Winter, who's played by Billy Lord. So Kai and Winter are brother and sister, and they had that pinky, I want to call it pinky promise conversation. I think that's what I'm just going to call it from now on, where they lock pinkies. They had one earlier in the episode when he was, you know, dressed as Donald Trump, if you want to call it, with the cheese puff face. But that whole conversation was pretty tense, and it's like edited with her interview for the nanny job. So I thought that was really well done. Bit of a weird conversation for a brother and sister, if I'm going to be completely honest. I really couldn't see myself having that whole conversation with one of my sisters. But yeah, it was still a very good scene, even though it was a bit awkward for the most part. But speaking of Winter, worst babysitter ever. I don't think she'll be getting any more jobs after that, or there won't be any good reference from Ali and Ivy, and Ivy is obviously Ali's wife, who's played by Alison Pill. I almost forgot her name, so Alison Pill plays Ivy. But yeah, Winter, possibly the worst babysit ever. Dark web murder scenes, showing a young kid that, and then taking him over to the clown murder scene. Now, I didn't realise that Asian couple from the beginning, I think they were the Changs, I didn't realise they were going to die in this episode, and then they showed the death scene. Pretty brutal, much more brutal than I thought it would be, but I'm very interested to see what this clown thing is going into episode 2 and further into the season, and how Kai gets involved, because what's being teased and stuff, it does seem like he gets involved. He does get like beat up by some, I think they're Mexicans coming across the border, not too sure. And it was being filmed, so I don't know what's going to go on there. There's a lot of like unanswered things that hopefully, or most likely will, get explained as we move forward into this season. But the Kai character seems like a very out there one. I think it's probably the craziest one that Evan Peters is going to be playing. Like Tate was pretty over the top in some areas, even though he's very calm in a lot of areas as well. And then I guess Mr. March from Hotel was a pretty out there, zany character as well. But yeah, this is probably the craziest character he's playing. And I think it looks like he's having a lot of fun with it. There's just two more things I want to mention from this episode. The first one is right at the end of the episode. Well, they're both from the end of the episode. But the first one is that we meet a new character who is Detective Samuels. You get a quick look at him after Ali crashes her car after the supermarket. You get a quick look at him through the door, but we don't properly meet him until the end, and that's Detective Samuels, played by Colton Haynes, who a lot of people would know as Roy Harper from Arrow, and he also was on Teen Wolf as well, for people that watch my channel regularly. And then the big cliffhanger for the episode, sort of confused about it, but we see Ali in bed, and there's some noises. She turns around and there's a clown there. It's the one with like the three-headed mask clown, the one that was on like the scooter, I guess, in the supermarket, and then was also involved in the Chang's murder. So yeah, interested to see where that goes. And yeah, but overall I thought this was a very, very strong opening. I only met a few characters. There's a lot more characters to meet as we move on into the other episodes, and I'm glad that they did that. I'm glad that they didn't shove all of these characters into our face, because that can be a mistake. An American Horror Story usually has a decently sized cast, so it was good that they didn't just shove all of these people in our face. We just slowly met the characters and learned what they were dealing with, so I think that was a really good move. Now, one big thing I've actually seen a couple of people saying is that this episode, or this season might I say, doesn't necessarily feel like American Horror Story at the moment. It's only episode 1, and I think it feels like American Horror Story, but I think a lot of people are referencing to the fact that some of the usual actors aren't in this season, like Kathy Bates, Dennis O'Hare. I don't think Angela Bassett is in this season, which I can understand, but you know, when we moved from like Freak Show to Hotel, there were a lot of new additions as well. Like Hotel had a similar vibe where there was like a Lady Gaga, Matt Bomer, Cheyenne Jackson is in this season as well. There's all those new actors coming in, so it's not like it's new, but I can understand like Kathy Bates not being in the show does feel a bit weird, because she's been in like the past 4 seasons, so it feels a bit weird maybe not having her there. But anyway, thanks for watching everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could leave a like on it, just to show your support for the video and the channel as a whole. Let me know in the comment section down below, what did you think of this first episode of American Horror Story Cult. I think it started off strong. Very excited to see how the rest of the season plays out. I think there's 12 episodes, 11 or 12, so yeah, I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. And yeah, from what I've heard from people that have watched the first 4 episodes, they're liking it the most out of any American Horror Story season they've watched, so that gets me very excited for the next couple of episodes. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you later. Goodbye.